I think they need to sign him back.
They need to sign him back.
Hello and welcome to Blue Jays, where we always have something to say about the Blue Jays, except not today, because we lost someone.
We didn't lose anyone. Nick. We didn't.
Because we never actually had them.
We never did.
I'm your host, Nicholas Playlock.
And I'm your host, Adam Peddle. And today you're watching this video because you heard that Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco are going to the New York Mets. He's gone. But hey, he's out of the AL, and that's important to us.
That is.
We want to break down this trade a little bit further, but before we get into that, make sure to hit that subscribe button, notification bell button, drop a like, drop a comment, and let us know like what fan base are you from and how do you feel about this trade. All right, Nick, can you tell us who was traded, what happened? Let's get into this.
Yeah, let me get my analytics hat on. Okay, let's talk about this trade. So, I'm going to mispronounce some names here, but
that's okay.
The Indians, they acquired a couple nice, juicy, tasty prospects. At this podcast, we like to talk about players as being like buns or sandwiches and whatever. These guys, they're like dough, you know? They're just being made and getting ready to be put in the oven. The prospects' names: Andres Jimenez, Josh Wolf, Isaiah Green, and Ahmed Rosario, who's not actually a prospect. He is a big major league player. Now, the Mets, who did they get? They got some bigger names, some people that are probably household names if you are a Blue Jay or a baseball fan. Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco. Wow. Oh, I think I got that all out.
Yeah,
Damn.
You got it all. And like, God, man, this is monstrous. Like if you're a Blue Jay fan watching this is what we've been wanting the whole time. Well, some of us, we at this podcast, like we weren't really sure like if this was our plan. Like we didn't really want this. Like this wasn't our first pick. Like we wanted one of the big free agents because there's that whole situation with Bo and Lindor. But regardless, Mets get Francisco Lindor,
which is big for them.
They're looking good. What is your reaction? What is your reaction initially when you saw it?
Okay, first off, we need to break down exactly who these people are and look a little bit at their value. So the Indians, they've clearly stated that they have a cap problem. Like Cleveland has said, like we need to ship off some money. Yeah. So they did that.
Yeah, they can't sign back Lindor. That's the whole thing.
No, they can't sign back Lindor, and obviously he's a very valuable player, somebody who you can get prospects for, which I think they accomplished. So let's check that box right there. Lindor was set to make, I have it down here, $19.5 million in 2021. Carrasco was set to make $12 million in 2021. So they're also dumping off some cap here, which is really nice, and getting back a good return of prospects. Andre Jimenez, he's not a household name, but he was a number 2 ranked prospect for the Mets.
And
that's sizable.
He played a little bit last year too. Like I believe he hit 263, 333 OPS, on base percentage, 398 slugging, and a 732 OPS. So like he was decent. And
keeping in mind that he was 21 years old.
21 years old, and he's barely played. So the Cleveland Indians, you saw with the Clevenger trade, like they're shipping off people, they're getting rid of people, they're kind of retooling, not necessarily rebuilding. What do you think?
I think that they are, and I need to look again at somebody like Jose Ramirez's deal. But they are bringing in a lot of young, fresh, new faces. And I think that we're going to start seeing these guys come up. Like, hey, your buddy, who we saw in the postseason. Josh Naylor came up. This is going to be a guy who's going to be part of their crew moving forward. And I think somebody like Jimenez, we're not going to see him, completely blow up the league maybe this coming year. But, 2022, 2023, moving with Josh Naylor, moving with Jose Ramirez, I think that we're going to see some fresh faces on Cleveland.
Just a little side note, when Nick says my buddy, we just played in similar leagues
Your
in
buddy,
baseball growing up.
Yeah,
he's my buddy. He totally knows who I am.
So
yeah, I think it's a great trade for both sides. Cleveland needed to retool. They knew everyone knew they were going to trade Lindor, but to who, that was the big question, and it wasn't to us as Blue Jays.
Yeah, that's upsetting.
So as a Blue Jay fan, like, what does this mean? Like, what does this mean for our team really going forward?
Oh, geez. Well, it means that I think that we have a better shot at some of the bigger free agents. If you guys have been paying attention, not only to this podcast, but just literally MLB news anywhere, it's always been Mets and Blue Jays. Mets and Blue Jays. Mets and Blue Jays.
Everybody, every single freaking
it's like Mets and Blue Jays are finalists for this guy. Mets and Blue Jays are finalists for this guy.
Yeah.
The biggest name being George Springer. He was the guy that we were really coming down to the wire with, these Mets. And now that they've shifted off all of these guys, because Josh Wolf was their number 10 prospect. Isaiah Green, they drafted in the second round this year. This is a lot of prospect capital to be giving up for only 1 year of Lindor.
They can't be like,
I think they need to sign him back.
They need to sign him back because realistically, there's two avenues, and I brought this up to you before this podcast. There's two avenues. One, which we both agree that we think that they're going to try and sign back Lindor, and if you're going to try and sign back Lindor, you know, you're at least in a normal year, maybe COVID changes this, but at least $250 million for that type of player. At least.
Yes.
So, and you have guys like Conforto, Stroman, Lindor now, obviously, and Syndergaard coming up on their contracts. You have DeGrom coming up in 2 years. So if you're going to try and sign back people like Conforto and Syndergaard, which they're going to want to, you got to be a little bit careful if you're going to sign someone like George Springer asking for $150 million.
Yeah, you cannot be shifting off $150 million now and then also planning on paying Lindor $250 million and then even considering to get any of these other guys back.
Yeah.
This deal to me, by giving up all of this prospect capital, says that we are in on Lindor. We are going to make him our guy. We even gave away our starting shortstop right now in Amed Rosario to make him our guy, to make him part of this team. I think that bodes very well for us as far as George Springer goes.
Yes, I want to get into that George Springer thing. But you know what that reminds me of? It's exactly like Mookie Betts, Dodgers and Red Sox, where they gave away their prospect Alex Verdugo for Mookie Betts.
Yes.
And a couple pitchers as well in that process.
That is
Carrasco.
True. That is true. However, I will say Carlos Carrasco, I like a hell of a lot better than what David Price was back then. David Price is, I think still is kind of, heavily on the decline.
Yes.
He was great in his heyday, but not really there anymore. Carlos Carrasco, first off, I just want to say, so much fucking respect to this man for he obviously, I'm sure that people know that he had leukemia. He was diagnosed with a rare form of leukemia. He battled that shit in 2019. All of MLB, Cleveland kind of supported him, and he came back strong, and he pitched for a 2.91 ERA in 2020. Excellent. That is so great to see from a player. So that aside is amazing.
He's going to kill it in New York, that's for sure. In that rotation.
And, forget the whole, I was sick, I had cancer, and he battled back. He pitched for a 2.91 ERA last year.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's a comeback player, man.
That is a comeback player if I have ever seen one.
Seriously.
And they get this guy now, their pitching's already great.
Their pitching, just give you, a little projected pitching lineup. They obviously have DeGrom. Then they have Syndergaard, who's going to come back mid-year. Who knows?
That's what I've heard, because he obviously suffered Tommy John.
Yeah.
He had to get that surgery done. I was reading an article that said if the season was potentially pushed back, which I don't think it will be, but if it was by 4 or 6 weeks, that would really help Syndergaard. So that to me is saying maybe 4 to 6 weeks into the season, we can see a resurgence of him. Yeah,
and if they get him back, then Carrasco's your number 3. And then you still have Stroman, who's dealing with injury right now, but he should be okay by the time, spring training comes along. And then, they're still in the hunt for another starting pitcher, like an Odorizzi type, maybe even a Walker. Don't get him. But they still, if they get another pitcher, that rounds out their rotation at a really good 5. And we were just talking about San Diego being an incredible rotation now.
Yes.
These guys are up in the conversation.
If they get their guys healthy, then I absolutely think so. That top 4 of DeGrom, Syndergaard, Stroman, and Carrasco, DeGrom is top, arguably the best pitcher in the league, if not top 2. It's Carrasco had an incredible bounce back year, and he's been great. He's been great his pretty much his whole career. You can expect a 3.5 ERA out of this guy. Syndergaard, nothing needs to be said, and Stroman had a great year last year too.
Yeah, and what's crazy when I was thinking about this, Stroman was our number 1 as Blue Jays going into 2015, and he's their number 4.
He would be their number 4.
That's impressive.
Yes,
and Stroman
yes.
really, like, he's gone down a little bit, but not by much, like in his career, like to where he is now, like in terms of numbers and performance. But that's incredible. And
I was just gonna interrupt and just say I think that this trade, I am upset at the fact that we didn't get Lindor, but I also think that the reason that we didn't get him is because it didn't make as much sense as it did for both of these teams.
Yeah.
This trade for me makes sense for both of these organizations a hell of a lot more than it would have made sense for us.
Yeah.
Because we would have needed to ship off somebody like Lourdes Gurriel Jr., who I do value much higher than Amed Rosario, but somebody like that, somebody like a Jordan Groshans as well, only to then slot Lindor into a space where he's not, like, we don't even need that right now.
You don't need it. And it's like some people can argue, like, of course you need any good players. Any, just put, Bo over to second base and him to shortstop. But that's the thing is, like, you don't need it because it's not necessary for our team configuration. And, for us, it's great because now we get to save all these prospects.
Yes.
We get to keep our core guys. Our team is not getting worse. If anything, they're getting better. And now that we have all these prospects, we can use that as trade bait. Because Lindor coming over here, realistically, is he going to sign a long-term deal in Toronto? Who knows?
That's the gamble. That's the gamble. Dice throw that we have no idea.
And Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins, like they might just be doing this just to make a move. And I want them to make smart moves, and a smart move would be grabbing a stud like George Springer, core in the outfield. Yes, he cheated, but he's a core, great bat, been to the World Series, and as well as using all those prospects now as trade bait for starting pitching.
Makes a hell of a lot more sense for us in my mind. It's like, or alternatively, you sign somebody like Bauer. I don't think it'll happen, but you sign someone like Bauer, and then you use those guys to make a trade for a big bat, like a Springer or something like that, right? So I think that the fact that we didn't jump at this is good, because I would have been really upset if we shipped off Gurriel.
Yeah.
Because the trade that it was looking like was like, we need to give up Gurriel, we need to give up Alejandro Kirk.
Yeah.
We need to give up some other prospects.
Like
that's
Manoah,
just too much for us for a position that we don't need, albeit a great player, but not in the spot that we need. And this makes a lot more sense, and I'm really hoping that now that they have Lindor and they're going to want to sign him to a long-term deal, we are the front runners to get a George Springer.
Yes. And actually, on that note, who is left in the market team-wise? Who is left? Who are we competing now? Because like we've said, like, we're going to get the scraps. And so far it's looking like that. So who's next?
Well, okay. So here's the things that I've heard. We're obviously in the mix. I have heard stuff. The Giants, surprisingly, we're talking about Bauer.
Yep.
So they could be around for that. Obviously, the Angels also with Bauer. There's a lot of people with Bauer.
However, I do think Giants and Angels are behind us. Like, I don't realistically see them grabbing a guy ahead of us.
I mean, like, apparently not in Bauer's ranking video.
Apparently not. He likes the Giants more than us? He likes the Giants more than us?
I don't know.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Anyways.
I don't know.
But who else? Who else? I know there's the Yankees.
Obviously, the Yankees are always in this conversation. Like, you can never take them out. And like, I've heard a bit about the Dodgers too.
They're always just gonna be there just because. But however, they have salary tax problems. That's the thing.
And that's the thing. Like, I would only imagine they have so many bloody people to pay that it's probably difficult for them. So I don't know, man. Like, I think that we have a very good shot here. Especially at Springer, but even for some of those other guys, like maybe a real Muto, maybe Bauer, fingers crossed. I don't know about DJ still. Like, I think the Yankees are still the front runners there. But hopefully with these Mets gone, that takes out another New York team.
Yes.
So
it's us next, guys. Like, literally, like, and yes. A lot of people, some people are having mixed feelings. Some people are really upset. I at first, I mean, you saw our Instagram story, like, we were pretty upset. But like, then, after a while I calmed down. I was telling Nick when he came home from work to shoot this podcast, like, I calmed down. Because, we realized all these things that we're saying, we are still in the market. We're not not improving.
Yeah.
If anything, we're now more clear to get George Springer. However, he does want 150 million. We offered him less than that,
which I think is the right thing to do.
I think it's the right thing to do. I wouldn't want George Springer on a 30 million a year for 5 years.
No, not me.
So let's see what happens. Maybe 120.
Yeah, the only reason that we are getting or that there was any form of anxiety, it's that same form of anxiety when it's like you feel like the odd man out and like all your friends are doing something and like you're not,
FOMO, the fear of missing out.
Fear of missing out.
That's what we're
It's like we never even really like wanted Lindor that bad on this podcast in the first place, but to see that somebody else has him, it's like, oh my God, we have to go now.
Yeah, like we have to make moves. We have to make moves.
Exactly.
But it's okay.
And I'm hoping the management is got a more of a stable head than we had earlier today, and some of the other Blue Jays fans, and they don't start firing off crazy shots like that. We are on the right path.
Yes.
We have the right mindset. And I'm really hoping that sooner rather than later, we see the results of that.
I really, really hope so too, guys. Guys, what do you guys think about this Lindor deal for Carrasco and Lindor? Do you guys think it's a great deal for the Mets? And then what fan base are you from again? Like, tell us. Like, what do you think? If you're a Mets fan, like, tell us. I would like to hear about what the Mets and what the Cleveland fans are thinking about this.
Absolutely.
Let us know.
Guys, you can check us out. Oh, my goodness. You can check us out on Spotify, Breaker, Anchor, Radio Public, and Google Podcasts. Also, make sure to check us out on our Instagram. That's always popping off, as we were saying.
Yes.
And Patreon. $3 a month, and you guys can become a member here of our community and ask us any question that you want, and we'll say it, and we will answer it for you on our show.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
And go Jays, go.